So, so this is us going into posh mode. This is my very good friend, Kate. Kate, we are now going to be very posh. Kate is one of my best friends. And we met because I had to interview Kate for a course on intuition that I was teaching. And we had this moment where she said, you know, I might be a little bit fragile because I've just had to...
It wasn't well then.
It was that. That was the first time I met you. I think you said fragile, something like that. And then I kind of... and you went, you think I'm pregnant, don't you? I was like, because I have no poker face. Yeah. So I accidentally told Kate that she was pregnant. And now I'm godmother to the lovely Felix Fair, who is in the world, which is great. But the reason why we're talking to Kate is because, what would you call yourself now? A survivor of COVID-19.
You know? Just crawling out the other side of it, to be honest. Yeah, I guess, yeah.
So I wanted to speak to you. I think I don't know, I think sometimes like young people, I still class myself as young, middle-aged people, oh God. There's this sense that we're, I don't know, oh yeah, I've got a healthy immune system. You are probably one of the fittest people I know, having climbed many mountains. Well, they felt like mountains from the beach.
Not real ones.
Devon, up there.
Yeah.
Felt like a mountain. You are probably one of the fittest people I know. You're a model, you're a yoga teacher for kids, you're a phenomenal human being, and this nearly got you. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so going back to the 18th of, what month? I don't even know where we are, March, was just before lockdown for everybody. And we were quite strict at my son's school, where I also work as well, on if a kid had a sniffle or something, we were told to self-isolate. So my youngest, who is 6, has a history of asthma, and he woke in the night and he was cough, 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 cough. It was a dry cough. So we woke up and I looked at Arlen and I said, I think we're going to have to self-isolate, which nobody had ever done before. So I had to explain the rules to everybody. I was like, we can't leave. We have to stay as a unit. And, you know, this may just be a child cough. It was something I would normally send him to school with in a heartbeat and wouldn't even, you know, we didn't know. We were just taking precautions and being sensible and being thoughtful to the wider community, basically. So we did. We decided at that point to self-isolate, and Sonny was bouncing off the ceilings, but he got this cough and he got an extremely runny nose. And at the time, all we were hearing in the press is, it's a persistent cough and a high temperature. So he had the cough and he had a runny nose. I think he probably had a little spike of temperature, but nothing to bring him down, nothing that I would particularly worry about. So we isolated, and within that 14 days of isolation for Sonny, and it was just before the lockdown, so lockdown came in the first week into that. I just thought, I don't think this is it. I think this is just a cough and a cold, so we'll just pass it off. But then within that first week, Arlen was like, I can't taste anything, and I certainly can't smell anything. And I was like, whatever, just brushing it off. No, I really can't. And if you read in the press, it's one of the symptoms, and that wasn't a common symptom at that point. We hadn't been told that. Again, we're just being told it's a persistent cough and a high temperature. So you're looking out for just those two things. You're not kind of, you know, it's not until you get it that you start to look into it a little bit further. So yeah, I then read about this lack of taste and smell, and he was quite lethargic, but he wasn't ill with it. He didn't have a cough, he didn't have a cold, he didn't have a high temperature. Arlen just had, this is my other half, not my child, had the loss of taste and smell, and it was really bugging him because he was like, I can't taste my dinner, you know. You know, and that was it. Felix, my eldest, who is 11 now, nothing, not a stitch. And then we were 14, 15 days into it, and we both had a bit of a headache. I have to say, Arlen and I had a bit of a headache, but we thought that was just, we were quite under, you know, our jobs had changed overnight. We had to put everything on the internet. We had to push for work. We had to see, everybody was putting feelers out, I guess, in what to do. I was having to homeschool my 2 children on very different levels, and work and life, and get used to this whole way of being. So we all had this headache, and I just thought, it's just because we're just adjusting. Didn't think anything of it. Sonny's nose stopped running the day his quarantine, self-isolation ended. And then I started with symptoms. So having spoken to a friend, she said, you probably incubated over those 2 weeks of him getting it from him, that we just thought was a sniffle. So the varying degrees, I think it's quite important to look at there. So Felix had nothing. So it could potentially be, I'm just hypothesizing here, could potentially be a carrier. Yeah. Because I know of other people at his school and in the area that have had it, very mildly. Sonny just had the mild symptoms of a cough and a cold. And Arlen had the loss of taste and smell, which I hadn't got at that point. I then started with it, and I still have it. To this day, I still have this cough, and I've been coughing all morning since I got up. And then it eases off as the morning goes on. It's like you've got something stuck in your throat. Yeah. It's really annoying. And it's dry and it's continuous. So I started with that and I thought, oh, it's a bit hay fever. Didn't really think much of it. And I got the headache. But I started to feel really tired, like really tired. And I'd be homeschooling and thinking, oh, I just want to go to sleep. And I thought, is this just it doesn't hit you really. So the two symptoms that I had in the beginning, the two symptoms I have left of the virus now, which is really bad fatigue and the little cough. And then I started getting this pain between my shoulder blades, and we all joked. I said, it's like I've got wind between my shoulder blades. I can't quite shift it. And I thought it because I bought some new hand weights and I've been trying to use them. So I was trying to like think of anything but what it was. Yeah. But this then over the next 2 days kind of consumed my rib cage, and the pain was really bad. And it was really, really bad. And I'm thinking, God, this really hurts. And it was like a stitch all the way around my rib cage that went down into my stomach. And it consumed me, it come in waves. And then I remember lying on the bed, like in a ball, trying to get away from the pain, trying to stretch out of the pain, trying to move away from the pain. And all the time the cough is there. So I think then the Thursday I got up, and with the intention of home teaching, I normally started with an hour of exercise for the kids. I was like, we're not doing that today, boys. That's not happening. We're just going to straight into the diary, straight, doing your work kind of thing. I don't feel well enough. I got up and I said to her, I'm going back to bed. The fatigue was so heavy on me, and I also felt this funny feeling in my chest. I wasn't getting the rib cage pain all the time, but it was there. Do you know what I mean? So slowly everything was kind of coming into place. I still wasn't 100% sure, and I can only say now that I'm 99.9% sure that I've had it because I never got tested. Yeah. All I could do was lie in bed, and the cough was there. Over the next 2 days, I had pains, I had the cough, I had the fatigue, I had headache, started to lose my sense of taste and smell. Hadn't quite peaked to the temperature at this point. It was hard to breathe in the top of my chest, but not like an asthma attack, and not like a cold or a chest infection. It felt like it was the muscles around my lungs but it was very little breaths. It was hard. It was quite frightening, and when it got very bad, it was extremely frightening. So then your brain starts to race, and you're reading all the news and you're reading all the press, and I'm searching desperately to hook onto someone else's experience that is having the same as I'm having. What is this? And then I started stalking a friend of mine on Facebook. We're now friends. I now fessed up to being a stalker on Facebook, but she was writing a daily diary, and she had a doctor who was a next door neighbour who was keeping an eye on her. She was a GP next door, and she says she's pretty positive that I have this and these are my symptoms. So I started read every day. I'm following her diary, and she was a few days ahead of me. But this diary was something that I latched onto because I could relate to it, and there was nothing else out there that I could relate to. Hence, I wrote a diary and posted it as well, because it's useful for people going through the same experience. By this point, so I had lack of taste and smell. I still had an appetite. I lost the appetite when the temperature came, which is normal with the temperature. So lack of taste and smell. I had the headaches. I had pains. I had the cough. I had a really runny nose for 2 days. And I was like, maybe this is hay fever. Like my nose just streamed and I was sneezing, which they were saying wasn't one of the symptoms, but it just for 2 days nonstop. And I was congested here, like heavily congested here. And I couldn't shift it. And that coupled with the pains and everything else, you're just exhausted. That stopped after 2 days. And then I got the sweats, the temperature and the chills. And I was spiking quite high. I spent the Friday night with a bag of peas between my legs because if you put it in between your thighs, it brings your core temperature down. And I had some on the back of my neck as well. That's another place that there's certain points in your body that help to bring the temperature down. So I knew this from sports science. So I put it in between my legs, the peas, trying to bring the temperature down. The breathing shallow. I couldn't watch the news. I couldn't read social media apart from this girl's diary, because it didn't help the panic in me, because I was like, is this going to turn? Is there going to come a point where this turns? Because at the moment I'm just coasting along, and normally I might have rung my doctor, or I might have gone to A&E if I can't breathe like this. But actually going to A&E or ringing 111 was quite frightening, because if you go in, you might not come out. And you're reading all these reports of people they leave it too late, staying at home, they don't go in, we're told to manage it unless your temperature and your breathing gets really bad, when is really bad. Yeah. I think I was a little stupid and I should have gone, because I think my recovery would have been a little quicker if I got some help with some oxygen. I did watch the video with the guy, there's a doctor, and he does the breathing video and then lying on your front. The breathing I found quite hard.
You had it, didn't you?
Yeah, the breathing was quite hard, but I still tried it, and I got as bit deeper breaths as I could, and then I lay on my front, and that I think stopped me from going into hospital.
Just that video from that doctor stopped you going to hospital?
I personally feel that helped me immensely. Because up until that point, I've been lying on my back or sitting myself up because I had the congestion. But actually lying on the front relieved the congestion as well.
Yeah.
The way it will work is you will take 5 deep breaths in, and each time you'll hold your breath for 5 seconds. On the 6th deep breath, you will take it in and you will do a big cough and covering your mouth, okay? You will do this twice, and then you will then lay flat on your bed with a pillow in front of you, taking slightly deeper breaths for the next 10 minutes, because you've got to understand that the majority of your lung is on your back, not on your front. So by lying on your back, you're closing off more of the airways, the smaller airways.
And drain the lungs. I could feel it. I could feel the difference. From lying on my back to getting up, I could feel the difference. It's quite interesting because as I'm talking to you now, you know me, I'm a talker. I can feel the tightness still 21 days later. It's not bad, but it's there. There was points on that Friday. So the Friday, Saturday, Sunday were the most frightening, I think, because the breathing was bad, the temperatures were bad. The one thing, I think I got through the whole experience on fear, stubbornness, and Larry David. And I'm not joking. The fear stopped me from going into hospital, which wasn't a great idea. I should have
talk a bit more about what was the thinking behind that, which is because obviously we all think, you know, this is why A&E gets so busy. We all think, go to hospital and go and be where the experts are. Were you worried about overburdening the NHS, or were you just simply worried about, you know, if I go in, I'm going to be, you know, around lots of other sick people? What was you thinking?
So my thinking on this, and it's really interesting because in the peak of it, when I was right in the thick of it, the kind of like, I sound like I'm talking about the curve of the coronavirus, but when I was right in the middle of it, and you know, you're still toying in your head, is this it? But by this point, I'd read this girl's diary and I was looking at my symptoms like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is it. My fear and my thinking behind not going into hospital was, one, I don't want to burden the NHS, and you get there and they go, there's nothing wrong with you, go home, you know. Clearly I was ill. Number two was, when you go to the hospital now, or if you call 111, they they either send someone around to see you. They've been giving people in this area antibiotics for a virus, which I'm not sure why they're doing that, because antibiotics don't help a virus. Or they tell you to go and get some oxygen, or they send an ambulance and send you in. So there's different routes as to how they treat you, as how severe your symptoms are. I don't know where I would have peaked at, because it was a bit like giving birth in the sense of you don't remember the really bad bits, your brain forgets them, and it's all a bit of a blur. But my fear was, I don't want to burden the NHS. Am I really sick? I was questioning myself.
Yeah.
I can handle this. I was being stubborn as well. I was being a stubborn northern girl and going, I don't need any help. I can do this. My other thing was, I'm going to have to leave my kids and my other half. And if I do that, I might not come. You were reading reports of people going in and not coming back out again.
Yeah.
And you can't have visitors. It's not like somebody can come in with you or sit with you, or you can have visit. You're in and that's it.
Yeah.
You should you're just in.
Yeah.
And you might not come out. So I'd actually written down on a piece of paper, because I don't have a will, I'd written down where everything to the boys in Ireland, obviously. And I was preparing in my head for the worst, because I thought, if this gets any worse, I might not be compos mentis enough to do this. And I'd actually read, when I could read, a story onto my phone for my kids so they could hear my voice. So I was clearly thinking, I don't know what I'm particularly doing here or why I'm doing it, but I needed to do it. I needed to kind of plan that route. So that was fear as well. And I think, yeah, it's a natural part of it, because you're looking at the press. Or I was trying not to look at the problems. I thought you weren't looking at the press. I had to know what's going on. I'm just reading the headlines. Yeah, the fear was a big part of it. I didn't want to go in and not come out. I didn't want to see a load of sick people dying around me. I didn't want to sit. And then my other thought was, well, what if I haven't got it and I've just got flu, and I go and get it? It's just like all these things are playing around in your head, and all the time. I watched, and I kid you not, the only thing that kept me sane and stopped me from it was a meditation in itself, was to watch some comedy. So I watched Larry David, and I watched all 10 seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm, because I needed to escape what was frightening me.
Yeah. And also, you must have been boosting your immune system because we know that the immune system is highly affected through fear. You know, the fight or flight response takes blood away from where it needs to be, and sense of, this is why fasting works, and the gut brain and gut health and all of that. It's interesting that comedy, we know, does boost the immune system. It helps
serotonin.
So was that a conscious thought, or was that like consciously, I'm going to watch comedy and this is going to help boost my immune system? Really?
It was. Well, it wasn't boost my immune system, but I knew that I needed to. I wasn't thinking like that. I thought, I need a distraction. I need something to take me into escapism. I needed escapism from what I was experiencing, because the more I thought about it, the worse my breathing got. And I'd have palpitations as well as the breathing, which wasn't helping me. It wasn't making me feel safe. And I knew if I went down that rabbit hole, it was going to make me a lot worse than I was.
Because I wanted to ask you about that, because when, I'm very lucky. The only time I've ever not been able to breathe was I was doing a 10K run, and I was quite near the end, and I got emotional because I saw a dog that looked like mine. And then I was like, okay. And I literally had to stop thinking about, when I say a dog that looked like mine, my dog passed away that long ago, just for anyone who doesn't know. So I got very emotional, and I just knew I've got to change my thoughts, otherwise I'm going to collapse. And I was so slow on the race. St. John's ambulance and everyone, I'd seen them leave. So this is not a good time to be eating sand. And just by switching my thinking, my breathing eased.
Yeah.
Was that your, because I was wondering, we talked a little bit before we turned the camera on, but sort of spiritual disciplines, yoga practice, all of that stuff didn't work, but comedy did.
Yeah. But then I think that is a form of meditation, isn't it? Yeah. Because you're focusing on if I focus on the now, and I start going inwardly into myself, I am just going to feed the fear, feed the virus. And if you, you know, your immune system then goes down because the fears, it's all going into the fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
You need to run away, you need to freeze, you need to do this. But if I steer it towards something else, although I still couldn't breathe properly, and I still had the temperatures and I felt like crap, there was a distraction. And that was like a meditation. That was my meditation at that point. Because I tried to meditate, I couldn't focus, because then you've got your monkey madness going on in your brain and the chattering. And that's not the chattering you need at that point. Because normally you'd send the chattering away, go, I acknowledge that, and I send it away. But you can't, because you're living with the virus.
And we're so, in any level of crisis, the chattering is there for a reason, because the whole point of the chattering is the fact that we're trying to figure out what we need to do to fix it. We're programmed to fix problems, which is why we like negative news stories, because we go, oh, this is what I would do, and this is how I would fix this, and how I would fix that. The chattering is you trying to fix it, but you're in a position where your head can't fix it, only your body can, and what your body needs is to feel lighter, literally, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there is a form of yoga which is laughter yoga, and people just go around making themselves laugh, which is quite hard. I've done it with the kids. It's quite hard. It's quite a hard thing to do, because you feel a bit like a loony. But actually, once you get going, the muscles from laughter as well. And I don't think I was all the time laughing at Larry David, because I was focusing on trying to breathe, but it was constant, and it was just, I guess, the rhythm of a voice as well, the comedic rhythm of a voice. But then you look at people like Vera Lynn used to go and sing to, you know, all the soldiers, and think entertainment is there for a reason, a really good reason. You know, it's there to lift people's moods. It's there as a form of escapism, and that's why it's so important. You know, and I think Larry David saved my life, really. I do, I really do. Because it did get really hairy for me, and I found it very hard to listen to my body, because I think the virus is so strong. It's like nothing else I've ever experienced, and I think it does affect your brain. It does affect every part of you, affecting my muscles. I mean, going to the loo, which is, I don't know, you know, my house, it's a 60-second dash to the loo, isn't it? Less, 30 seconds. I felt like I'd run a marathon.
Wow.
Felt like I'd run a marathon.
When you talk about the virus, it almost sounds like you're talking about some entity possessing your body. Did it feel like that?
Yeah, but then it's quite interesting. Yes, it did. Very much so. It you know, I can still feel its memory in my body now.
Right.
Even when I'm talking, I can feel it feels quite breathy in my upper chest.
Yeah.
That's not gone yet. And this is probably the most talking I've done for a long time.
Sorry.
Fine.
If you get tired, just be like, all right, enough.
I'm doing my marathon. This is good. I'm building muscle strength in my lungs. So this is good. Yeah, it did feel like that. But interestingly, is this because it is a bit like an entity in your body? It is feeding off you. Or is this psychological? Is this because the media has given it a physical presence? You have a picture of this thing with all its crowns on its head, corona meaning crown. It's got a personality already. The press have given it a personality. They've given it, it's the evil red bug that you see with its tentacles, its little crown sticking out. Is that embedded in my head?
Yeah.
But yes, it did very much feel, and it still does feel like there's something, it's going to take a while for it to leave the body. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I need I remember saying to Alan, I think I need an exorcist. This is horrible. When I was in the middle of it, because it did feel like something was just feeding off me. You know, and I know it takes a while for viruses to shed. It will be still in me. It will be still shedding its crowns. Yeah, it's very, very frightening. So then once the temperatures had stopped, and you know, normally if you have a bug and your temperatures have gone and your symptoms are dying off, you start to feel brighter and lighter and better.
Yeah.
But the worst, I think, the hardest part of this has been the fatigue. It is like something washes over you. I've had it from the very get-go, and I'm still having it now. It washes over you, and you just want to go to sleep. It's really frustrating because my brain now wants to get on and do stuff, but my body's just not there yet, and the energy levels are not there yet, and that's frustrating. And I know it's still there because this being the longest I've spoken in a long time, I can feel it on my chest still.
Won't keep you too much longer.
No, it's fine. It's good. It's exercise. But yeah, it's been really, really tough. Yeah, I'd never want to go through anything like this again. And I'm very, very grateful that I am still here, and that I survived it on my own. It was very silly. I should have probably sought some form of help. But I was stubborn. I'm fearful. But I had Larry David on my side. I don't, I look at all the people that have lost their lives, and they very fit people, and it's just like it takes you like that.
Yeah, it's a really big deal.
Yeah.
On the other side of this, there's the other thing that's been happening that this, the spiritual community is talking about quite a lot, which is this epidemic, the second epidemic of the fear that's been created off the back of all of this. Which does affect people, and then also the mental health issues that can come up from having been, isolated, and your past and the things you haven't dealt with and things like that kind of come up. Absolutely. And kind of bite you in the bum really whilst you've got these things kind of going on, because we fill our lives with busyness so that we don't have to deal with particular things. And then when you're not filling your life with busyness, if you've actually got the opportunity to do that, because lots of people are busier than ever, so we have to take that into consideration. I do find, when people are kind of going, nothing to do, and there's other people going, I'm pulling my hair out. But the spiritual community are really trying to sort of like do group-led meditations and things like that in order to get people to sort of, just watch, get out of the fear mindset, boost your immune system by getting out of the fear mindset. So if there's anything that I want to take absolutely everyone to understand off the back of this chat, so that everyone listening to the back of this chat, be happy and don't be guilty about it.
No.
Be grateful. Absolutely be grateful for absolutely every single tiny thing that is working for you. Absolutely. Don't look at what's not working for you. Don't moan about it. Don't just, if there was ever a point in time for gratitude, a sense of humor and being happy, you got to find those things right now, because that's really the best of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different strands of what you've just said that I was thinking as you were saying it. I'm doing a project at the moment with Chicken Shed Theatre Company, and it's to do with people between the ages of 30 and I think it's 60, I can't remember, or 50. And it's funded by Bupa, and they're looking at how middle age, there's a big spike in mental illness and illness in middle age apparently. And how life affects you. And we've been doing a lot of soul searching and going back into we're doing it as a theatre performance, but we've been doing a lot of therapy work and looking into our past and how it affects us now. God, this has come at such a time, do you know what I mean? Because I think this is bringing up lots of issues. And even before I got sick, I would say just the stillness and being at home and not being able to go and see my family, not being able to do the things I normally do. I started to go into myself a little bit, and I'd hear music and it would remind me of things in my childhood. And all these memories started coming back and floating back into my life. Some of it's beautiful, and some of it's very nostalgic and can be quite emotional. And then when you get sick, it comes a bit faster, and you think, oh God, is this before I die? I get all these memories. Do you know what I mean? Seriously.
Flashes before your eyes. But also I started to think, oh, this is what it's like when you are an elder and you're retired and you're sitting at home just having all of these memories.
But yes, but it's lovely. In a way, it's lovely. In a way, it's lovely because you look back and you focus and you have this moment of, because you're sitting still in time. I'm now looking, I'm like, oh, maybe life is in different phases. I can see the different phases planning out. So you can look at it as a positive, but I can imagine for some people it's very difficult. Yeah. The other thing that is coming into my head at the moment is that I haven't left where I'm very lucky where I live. I've got nice green surroundings, but I haven't left my front gate for 5 weeks on Tuesday.
Wow.
Now, I have a bit of a fear about this now. I can feel it. Obviously I'm very brave and I will conquer this fear, but actually I quite like solitude. I like being by myself. I'm an only child. I like my own company, except I've got 2 children and the other half. But I like it. I like being alone in my own thoughts. I like doing things on my own. And I just thought that when lockdown first happened, I was talking to my friend Zoe, who you know, and she'd set up all these Zooms for our girls that live locally to chat and communicate, because you think, yeah, let's bring the community in and we do these Zooms, and it's important to have that connection. That happened I did the first one and then I got sick, so I wasn't on the second one or the third one.
Yeah.
But I said to Zoe the other day on the phone, I said, oh, are the girls still doing the Zooms? Oh, nobody invited me. She went, no, I didn't organise it because we've said all we need to say now. We've done that. And I was like, I didn't want to seem really awful, but I actually have stayed away from doing group Zooms or things like that because I don't need to. Some people may need that.
And they're quite difficult to do anyway in a kind of like a flowing type thing. But it's funny. I was talking to Ashley. You know Ashley.
Yeah.
So sorry everyone, Ashley. So I was talking to my friend Ashley the other day, and she was saying, you know, it's only just occurred that I don't like catching up with people. And when she said it, I went, oh my God, I have almost obligation-wise, but also to sort of think to myself that this is the right thing to do. You catch up with friends over coffee and you start from the last time you saw them and you fill them in all of your news. Well, firstly, when you're doing that, you're living in the past because you're probably over or have moved on from the stuff that you're telling them, and you're recreating it in that moment, especially if they're interested and ask you questions. But secondly, why would they be interested? And I suddenly thought, what I really enjoy about friendships is the friendships where you do things together. So, I mean, I'm a big foodie, so I love going out for dinner. But the idea of sort of I just think off the back of all of this, how those obligations, I have felt so much freer. And I love all of my friends and I love seeing them. But I felt so much freer not having to go out, not having
to feel obliged to keep a communication. It's being obliged. And I think the thing about communication is it's lovely when it's sporadic as well, right? But it's to have touch. And I think the problem that we're going to face coming out of this lockdown is people, especially if they live like yourself on your own or anything else. I mean, you'll be fine, but there's certain people that aren't emotionally stable, that haven't had touch and communication, a hug, even a handshake, or even a touch on the shoulder. I think the touch thing is going to be a big issue, but I think this will also, it may take time and not everybody will catch up, but reshuffle social communications.
Utterly. I think it really will. I think it's going to reshuffle an awful lot of stuff. And if it doesn't, it would be a waste. You know, I think that, you know, the spiritual community always talked about like 2012 as being this massive tipping point. And then, you know, and then nothing happened. And I blame Prince. I was upset with him as well when 1999 and nothing happened.
I know.
But actually, I think we've all been waiting for this moment where we've known for such a long time that things were flawed and things weren't working. And we've been going, right, there will be something that is going to come. There's going to be something that's going to happen. And I have swayed from thinking it's going to be aliens landing to God knows what, but I have just always known that we go through shifts of consciousness, and there will be a shift of consciousness, and I'm hoping that this is that shift of consciousness, and we're all going to start coming from a place of kindness and consideration and inclusion. I mean, my hardest thing is when I go for a run and a dog comes over and they come up to me and I hold up my hands for them to sniff me, but I can't pet them. And you so there has been no sense of touch for me from anything or anyone where you would normally like pet somebody's dog or something like that. But I tell you what's been very real, Kate. So when you get past this gate, you will notice that the world has changed within this way, which is energetic love. You can feel it. So going out on my run, some people don't look at you and they look at the floor as, you know, as happy.
Yeah.
And I think some guys find it difficult to look at a woman running and say,
Yeah.
you know, my version of
Yeah.
running. But actually, when people do create eye contact with you, just that, hello, good morning, just like this, you know, and then I say that there is also the backlash of that, of when you're in the supermarket or anything like that, everyone's a little bit like, get away from me, get away, you know, is it you, do you have it, are you going to kill me, is it you?
Yeah.
It's like everyone's walking around with a loaded gun, you know, but
you know what, potentially they are.
at the same time. Yeah, they are.
They potentially are. I mean, look at Felix, he's been in this environment because I talked to a doctor friend of mine and they were saying that it accumulates. It's a bit like chicken pox. So when Sonny got chicken pox, he got it bad. When Felix got it, he got it twice as bad.
Right.
It gets bigger. That's why people in care homes have been dying en masse, because the virus, it grows and accumulates and gets bigger. This is why mass gatherings are not great.
Right, that makes complete sense. So have you been kind of, I mean, or I presume Arlen has just been cleaning every single work surface in the home in order to kind of...
because there's just us four.
Yeah, just kind of, yeah.
I've been getting told off because I was really sick and I was like, yeah, I can't stand up. And I was really sick and I was like trying to clean the sink and I was just like, I'm gonna keep it nice. So that I knew I was getting better when I was like, oh gosh, I'm getting out of bed to get a glass of water and scrubbing the work surfaces. I knew I was getting better then. But yes, I mean, Arlen has been more vigilant with the cleaning, but not, I mean, the four of us, nobody else is coming in and we've all had a version of it.
Yeah.
So we've just been maintaining it and cleaning it as we normally would. Things like parcels coming into the house and food, even though we have had a version of it, we have still cleaned stuff because who's to say you can't get it again? And I do not want this virus again.
No, because at the moment I don't know whether or not that creates an immunity that you've had it.
Who knows?
Yeah,
we don't know. I know I don't want it again. I don't want any other strain of it. And for Felix's sake, say he's completely dodged the bullet, I don't want him to get it. Yeah. We moved my mother-in-law who lives below us out to my brother-in-law's because she's vulnerable.
Yeah.
So as soon as there was illness in the house, she shipped out. Yeah. And she's in the countryside having a whale of a time, which is great for her. But it's, and we're still cleaning the shopping. We're still cleaning anything that's come from outside in, because you just do not know. And because I've got a weakened immune system at the moment, I don't want anything else on top of it either. So yeah, from cleanliness point of view, that's changed. How you shop's changed. Everything's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
I would say to anybody going through this, find a distraction that isn't social media or the news. Do not be afraid to call the hospital. Don't be stubborn and silly like me. Call for help. Ask ring 111. They will give you the right help that you need. Don't try to be a trooper like I tried to be. Make sure you get that help. Lie on your front. CBD oil. That was a brilliant one because actually that helped relax me if I was feeling anxious. It helped with the muscle spasms, the pains in my joints.
Great.
And my ribs. So it was just the squirt under the tongue. The loss of taste and smell, there's nothing you can do about it. Mine's only just coming back 21 days and I'm just getting it back. That's horrible. That's not pleasant at all. You can't taste your food. What else would I say? Paracetamol, obviously, not the ibuprofen, as I would normally take. Just don't touch it. Make sure you check the temperatures the whole time and check your breathing. I've ordered, which hasn't arrived, an oxygen level thumb thing, which I'm going to keep for my son who has asthma. And you just stick it on your thumb and it reads your oxygen levels, which would have been helpful probably about a week ago.
I don't even have a thermometer, you know. It's like I'm not a mum, don't own a thermometer.
Yeah, but you know what? You don't need one. You know, if you can feel it. Yeah. You can feel it in your body. The vibration in your body, you can feel it. It vibrates. Like Arlen said, even though he had just lost his sense of taste and smell, he could feel it vibrating in his body, so that shaky feeling you get with a virus. And I can still feel it now in parts of my body. And sometimes I feel amazing and I feel like I want to jump through the garden, and the next minute I'm like, oh God, I want to do that. Distractions, because I don't think, unless you are a strict person with your meditation and your breathing and everything, it went all out of the window. All my practice went out the window. Don't beat yourself up about that. Just go with something that's light, that's going to lift your mood. And I think you're right, it does. It's generating the serotonin to boost your immune, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nasty.
It's nasty, must be avoided. Kate, thank you so much for sharing it with everybody. I mean,
That's
not
right.
the virus.
Yeah.
But from church.
But
but thank you for letting people know.
That's okay. No worries.
That we spread that out into the world so that people can see it if they need to see it. It does.
Yeah.
And
it is quite funny. I was just going back to where I live. There are other people milling around, and within my gated community, and obviously I'm up and about for the past couple of days. I've been wearing a mask and gloves, and people have literally run away from me. Oh, okay, I am not. It's like I've got leprosy. Yeah. And I don't blame them at all, but there's a feeling of alienation of like, oh God, do you know what I mean? And my kids are running around. They're not worried about my kids. It's me. My kids have all had it. It's me, the one that had it the worst. And I watched a guy literally nearly climb the bushes to get away from me. And it is so weird because I feel like a leper in my own house, my own community, do you know what I mean? But yeah, that was quite amusing to watch people run and want to ask you how you're doing, but actually just don't want anything to do with you.
Don't give me what you've got.
I don't want it. I even said to my mum, who's in Yorkshire, I was like, so hopefully you guys don't get it, but if you do, I might be able to come and look after you. No, don't come near. Just don't. Like, oh my God. The fear of it. I mean, there is it's funny, isn't it? A funny old game, a funny old world. But I hope we all come out the other side a better version of ourselves. Yeah. Even if that has taken us to places we don't like.
But transformation always does.
I know.
It just does.
I know.
Nothing ever kind of like gets completely fixed until it utterly breaks.
Yeah. And the other thing as well is going back to that midlife thing as well.
Yeah.
I think when you're younger, you have this sense of you're going to live forever.
Yeah.
And I think for the first time having this, I faced the possibility of death. And that with children is frightening. Yeah. And it's the first time I've ever felt that. Because my friend said to me, but didn't you feel that in childbirth? And I didn't. In childbirth, it was blooming hard work and it was full as hell. But I always knew I'd come out the other side. And I had a spiritual sense of knowing and understanding that I was going to get through this and I'd get to the other side of it. Because I think you've got recorded cases of people just, all these people have popped out babies. So you have a guide, you have a, not everybody pans out very well for, but even though it's painful and hard work and scary and all those things, I wasn't scared. Actually, I wasn't scared in childbirth. It was just focusing on getting the baby out, I think. I didn't feel like I was going to die.
Yeah.
This, I felt like there's a possibility this could change in a split second. And oh my God, my children. And my partner actually said to me, you are so lucky and we were very worried about you. Have been very poorly. And I was actually, have I really been that poorly? I was questioning myself still, but I had the thoughts of, and I think that's a midlife thing as well. It's a stage in your life where you start to think about dying. You start to think about what's going to happen. And I was really frightened because I've got my 2 young children and I didn't want to leave them.
No.
So
I think that's exactly why you didn't go to the hospital.
Yeah, I think that is it. I think I knew that if I went in there's a really good chance that I might not come out. and I didn't want them to tell me something I didn't want to hear, you know. And that's why I braved it out. But I do think the lying on my front probably saved me going into the next phase.
Yeah.